أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الله الكبير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الله الكبير. Again, we are indebted to God for giving us this opportunity and this huge blessing that is bestowed upon us. And our test is not over yet, and so we are here to get closer to our Creator and become a better servant of God, hopefully. And so that should be our ultimate goal. And thank God for everything that He is providing for us. And the best thing that He has provided us is the guidance that He has given us. And inshallah, He will continue to guide us. And we should be eternally indebted and grateful to Him for having this this beautiful gift from Him, which is absolutely priceless. There is nothing that we can substitute it with. Guidance is the best thing that God can grant some people, and so this is a huge blessing for us. Again, gratefulness and appreciativeness is a godlike quality, and we should strive in His cause and be grateful to Him. And so that's the way that we can actually become a better servant of God, inshallah. So today what I wanted to discuss with you is I wanted to go to chapter, let's see what happened here. I want to go to chapter 39 and there we are, Quran. And so we go to chapter 39, verse 7. Chapter 9, verse 7. Okay, there we go. It's 2:7, it says. One more time. I don't know what he wants me to translate it for, but 39, verse 7. Okay. There we are. Okay. God is telling us, He said that if you are ungrateful, God is in no need of you. But He is not pleased when His servants are ungrateful. Okay? This act of ungratefulness to God is an act on our part that makes God not being pleased with us. You see, displeasure is not a good feeling. Okay, if you're not content with something, something is bothering you, you are not in a state of contentment, fulfillment. So this is bothering God. Let's put it that way. Okay, this is God who has provided everything for everybody. Okay, and then we turn around and God is watching us. Okay, so He sees our thoughts. He knows exactly what we are doing. The most innocent. So I'm just going to read on. This is, however, when you are grateful, He is pleased with you. No one carries the sin of another. Finally, to your Lord is your return, and He will inform you of everything you have done. Surely He fully knows the innermost thoughts. Okay. So we basically turn around and act of ungratefulness that we uh, display in front of God that can see our most innermost thoughts. It's something that's to His displeasure. Okay? This is how you can torment God. So this is a huge task upon us. And I keep saying this, that God is grateful to you. God is telling us to be grateful to me and your parents. Okay? So what does that mean? That means that we have to be grateful to our parents for whatever they have done for us. Okay? That's a commandment from God. I'm not saying this. Okay? This is this act of gratefulness. God is grateful. Okay? Can you imagine that God is grateful? And then we turn around and do exactly the opposite. We're not grateful to Him for what He has provided for us. And He provides for us right now as we speak. Do you think that the fact that you're sitting here and you're breathing and you're seeing things is something to be taken for granted? That's supposed to be like this? But that's how we think. That these are supposed to work the way they work. A lot of people who can't see. A lot of people who can't hear. A lot of people who can't smell, taste. Okay, the mere fact that you put some food in your mouth and you actually have that sensation of pleasure of a good food. We've taken that for granted. The fact that you're chewing a food and you're not biting your tongue. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the type of programming, if you will, that has gone into that system, which is your tongue and your teeth, and your lips and inside your mouth. And your tongue actually moves the food around for you to chew it. And then at the nick of time, it pulls back. Sometimes you bite your tongue. It's not a good feeling, your teeth are really sharp. You realize, oh my God, my teeth are really sharp. I didn't know that. And sometimes your tongue bleeds or the inside your mouth bleeds or something because you took this for granted, that this is going to happen this way, this natural thing that happens. No, it's not. God is the one who did that. The fact that you can actually swallowing solid food, the act that you're breathing in and out, and you can take a deep breath. We take that for granted. We think it's supposed to work like this. Have you heard of mesothelioma or something, or whatever? I don't know the name of that cancer that you get because of asbestos or something. They can't breathe. Okay? A lot of people died of tuberculosis because they couldn't breathe. You die from pneumonia because you can't breathe, because your lungs are full of fluid. Well, we take all of this for granted and we're not grateful to the source. That's how we are. As a human species, that's how we are. We are ungrateful to God. And God says, this is to my displeasure. Okay? This is not something that I'm pleased with. Okay? I'm not pleased with my servants. Can you imagine that? I mean, as I said, you have this idea that somehow these things are supposed to work the way they work. There's no guarantee for that. There is no reason for that to work that way. As soon as those intricate systems that God has created falter due to our own deeds, okay, we're going to fail. Those systems are going to fail, and we are not going to have those abilities that we had before. But as a group of God's creation, we are taking all of this for granted. We are not grateful enough to God. And we basically stab him in the back every chance we get. Remember the guy said, I got this all by my own cleverness? Doesn't matter how rich you are. You could end up poor the next day. Doesn't matter what kind of mansions you have. You could end up homeless the next day. These are not the type of things. That's what Solomon said to God. Okay? That forced me to be grateful to you. That's what we should say according to 46:15. Okay? That forced me to be grateful to you. That is the idea. The idea is that if we are not obeying these commandments of God and we're displeasing him, we're tormenting God basically, okay, there is no way for success. None whatsoever. Every day of our life is going to be worse than the previous day. Instead of improving, you're going to go down. You're going to devolve into this state, okay, of debasement, of horrible situation, of misery, okay, because we refuse to recognize what God has provided for us. You know, the fact that you put in something in your mouth and it's bitter, okay, again, we take that for granted. If you don't have any taste, you'll eat the bitter stuff. You eat poison without even knowing it. But God has given you that thing, that distinction between the bitter and bitterness and saltiness and good taste. Accordingly, what you do, you can actually recognize those things. And if you have those abilities, God is the one who's provided for us. If we are going through our lives, you see, being uninformed about these things, and when we read these verses in the Bible, we are in a state of denial all the time. That somehow these things are supposed to work this way. No, it's not. Okay? The mere fact that you have these things that God has provided for you is not by accident, it's a blessing from God. Remember the guys who were going to go and pick their fruits and get their harvest? They were so sure. Okay? Don't let any needy person near you today. That's what they were thinking about. And when they got there, the whole thing was gone. Okay? Because God is the one who provided that for them. But they didn't recognize that. They did not glorify God for giving them that ability and that provision that He provided for them. When God says these things, if we go opposing the Word of God, okay, the consequences are grave. Okay? When you're displeased with something, when you're not happy with something, what's the opposite of happiness? Sadness, frustration. Okay? When we are happy with something, we are happy. We feel good. Happiness, you feel good when you're happy. When you're sad, you don't feel good. Because sadness is not a good state. This pleasure that God has with us, we have to be at His pleasure. We have to serve at His pleasure. We have to act at His pleasure. We have to serve Him at His pleasure. Okay? We have to do things that pleases God. A lot of people say, well, this says this and this and this and this. Okay? And I always say, okay, which one is the one that makes God happier? And if you say this, you answer your question. The other one's irrelevant. Okay? In the case of divorce, okay, he says if you reconcile, God is forgiving, all merciful. If you don't, God is understanding. Okay? So which one is more pleasing to God? To stay with your family, do not break it up. Okay? We think we are going to do better if we do that. We can't. It doesn't work that way. That's why he says bring 2 eyewitnesses when you get a divorce. Not when you get married. Okay? And erroneously in a marriage ceremony, they say in front of all these witnesses. God doesn't require for witnesses. Okay? So what do? We do things that makes God happier. We don't want to displease Him. We don't want to displease Him by stabbing Him in the back every chance we get with all of the stuff that is provided for us. Okay? And when you look at your own life, 10 years ago, it was like it was yesterday. Okay? Some people, they say, well, why doesn't this guy get it right now? Okay? We're in a hurry. God has His own plan. And we have to go along with it. And His ways have already been announced and everything. Do not rush it. The people who are working at God's displeasure are going to suffer the consequences of that. They're not going to succeed. The people who are not abiding the direction that God is set in, going to suffer the consequences. The consequences are going to be grave. There's not going to be security. There's not going to be happiness. There's not going to be contentment. There's not going to be fulfillment. There's not going to be any pleasure in that kind of life. And then we realize, but by the time we realize, some people don't even realize that, but some people do realize that by the time it's too late. You had a chance over and over and over again to fix this problem, and you didn't. And God forbid, if we just die during this time that we haven't fixed it yet, and we haven't even recognized that we haven't fixed it, then we are going to be in deep trouble. Okay? So that's what we have to strive for. That's why we have to be grateful for God to be pleased with us. Once that happens, nothing can stop it. And that's how we can succeed and have a life full of contentment, fulfillment, and happiness and joy. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to finish this unit.